We are live.
Well, good morning to each and every one of you beautiful Isogenics people. My name, of course, is Michael Klaus. I'm here with my wife, Lynn, and we have the esteemed pleasure of sitting down and having a conversation with our Chief Science Officer, Dr. Plant. And we've asked him to show up, Dr. Plant unplugged. So no bow ties, no jackets today. And the reason, of course, is that this is for our Isogenics family. So you've been invited because you're part of the family. And we really want to spend some time talking about this elixir that I know a lot of you have been hearing buzz about that will be released on January 8th of 2021, coming up in just a handful of days, truth be told. But before we get into these four areas, and let me be clear what we're here to talk about, we're going to get into the science, but we really want to discuss what is this elixir you've all been hearing about, who is it for, who should be taking it, who should we be marketing this to, why does it work? That's an interesting question. And of course, how do you personally benefit? So before we get into that, I really want all of you to get to know Dr. Plant because Lynn and I have had the opportunity to sit down, pre all of this kind of adjustment in the world and have conversations. We've met in his office, we've been to corporate, he's come and sat with us. So we know him perhaps better than most. And we want you to feel as comfortable with him as our Chief Science Officer as we do. So Dr. Plant, let's start kind of in the beginning and just let them know who you are and really how you ended up here at Isogenics.
Who am I, right? Like, what type of metaphysical, question is that all of a sudden? Leave it up to Michael to all of a sudden put you on some type of path. So I am, by every stretch of the imagination, I'm not your typical scientist. I grew up in a town of about 1,000 individuals. Turkey farming was the industry. Science was something that you had to pass in high school to get a diploma, right? It was as relevant as just any other subject to a high school kid. Now, it always intrigued me. I always enjoyed science. I always enjoyed nature. In fact, I was actually the town beekeeper in 5th grade. So, it was a small town. There was a county beekeeper. Believe it or not, everyone here on Facebook, you may not know this, but there are beekeepers that the town or county holds to when there's a wild swarm that comes by. That's who they call to kind of come and take them. Well, anyways, the town was so small that we didn't have our own. And so I loved it. I mentored as a 5th grader with the county beekeeper. And, my greatest acts of heroism were in the 5th grade when twice they pulled me out of 5th grade to go get a wild swarm. So that is my moment that I look up to still today, to where I was strutted across the elementary school as the hero to rescue everyone from those bees. But I kind of went through life. I'm a first-generation college student, right? Education wasn't something I was stressed, or formal education. I got wonderful parents. They always talked about the importance of hard work and discipline. But the education was never really stressed. And so anyways, I married. I was working graveyards at Target. And the reason that I was working graveyards at Target is because it paid me, I think, about 35 cents more an hour. And so here it is, my beautiful wife, myself, and about a year into our marriage, we're expecting the birth of our first child. And I don't know about you guys, but oh man, that gives me the jitters. I still think back to that time of what was I thinking, right? 22 years old, working graveyards at Target, and we decided that we can bring on another child, or we can bring somebody with responsibility into this world. And so all of a sudden with that came just this moment of what do I need to do? And my wife and I were out here playing catch. She is a tremendous softball player. And we were playing catch just outside our apartment complex. And she said, well, what do you want to be? When I was telling her how nervous I was. And it was funny because she asked me what I wanted to be, not what I wanted to do. And, because if she asked me, what do you want to do? I'd be like, well, I'd like to be managing the graveyard shift, right? But she asked me what I wanted to be. And it kind of was a little funny. And all of a sudden, just out of my mouth said a scientist, right? It's something that's always intrigued me, but you always felt guilty to actually kind of talk about it. Growing up in a town of 2,000 people talking about being a scientist, you might as well have said I wanted to be a rock star or a professional football player. It was something that was just out there, not obtainable. And she said, well, let's do it. So I didn't even know what to begin. I had no college under me. I did well in high school, but that was about it. And she's like, I don't know what it takes to be a scientist either, but I know what the first step is. And we went and looked at, went and enrolled at a university there and did very well. Graduated with honors, biology and chemistry, worked in a lab to get experience. And so I was working in a lab, I was going to school in a double major, and then I was working still graveyards at the time. And so it was super busy, but I loved it. It was so great. And now all of a sudden I'm in the lab. And this is like, the moments where you slip and fall and hit your head on the toilet seat and you wake up with a eureka moment. I had a moment in the lab here as an undergraduate, and it was kind of amazing. And where I was able to discover something. Now, my advisor at the time said, let's actually present this. And so I presented it at the American Association for the Advancement of Scientists. That's the biggest conference among scientists every year. About 30,000 nerds get together. We talk about how we were always the last pick. We talk about how to tie bow ties and everything else of the sort. But I presented there, and they gave me actually best research for what I was able to do. And I was highlighted in Science Magazine, which is like the Sports Illustrated of science, right? And it kind of set me on this course. Now, all of a sudden, here I am. I got this recognition as an undergraduate. I graduated with honors, everything else. And then all of a sudden, I get a call from the National Institutes of Health, right? To where each year they kind of select about 10 to 14 individuals to kind of like these up-and-coming scientists from around the globe. And I was selected to be one. So here I am. I'm coming out. And all of a sudden, I spend 2 years working at the NIH, working specifically on breast cancer. Do several publications looking at natural ingredients in this. And things were going great. They offer you the job if you want it. And I'm thinking, I've made the life as a scientist. Here I am, check the box, I'm done. I've got a nice steady little income. At this time, we had 2 children. Like, I've made it. And then all of a sudden, I get a call. It's a Friday afternoon, and I get a call, and it's Harvard saying, congratulations, you've been accepted. And it was funny because I was like, don't you want to get to know me first? Like, is this, wait, I've been accepted to study or accepted to be studied? Because, I might need to, I'm willing to do both, but don't you, do I need to sign a waiver that I'm not going to sue you for studying me? And so this is where all of a sudden, it was actually a freak out moment. Everyone's like, oh, here's the opportunity of a lifetime. One of the most prestigious, highly selected programs in the world. You've got thousands and thousands of people applying to this scientific program, and they accept anywhere, I think, around 40 to 50 individuals a year. And here I am all of a sudden just getting a call out of the blue. And I remember hanging up saying, thanks, and let me talk to my wife and think about it. And I remember telling my wife, I don't know if I want to do this, right? I've got a nice little government job here. I'm a scientist. They're going to put me against people who kind of went to these Ivy League preschools. I'm a turkey farmer. And all of a sudden it's going to be had that I've gotten to where I am because I slipped and hit my head on the toilet seat and just kind of accidentally have fallen into where I'm at. And it's going to be exposed that I am not this pedigree scientist that these other 40 kids are going to be. And, and it terrified me. My wife, and actually the mother at this time, was like, go for it, right? You got to risk it for the biscuit. You got to go out on the limb for the fruit. And it was funny because I went here and I was expecting, oh my goodness, in the first quarter, they're going to be like, oh, we're sorry. It was actually your application was stuck to somebody else's. And, we accidentally did this. But I was able to kind of go through this program. In fact, I graduated in about half the time it takes a typical student to graduate. Graduating the first one in the class. And this was something where I had on my committee, I had Dr. Jack Szostak. You may know that name. He won the Nobel Prize for his discovery of telomeres. Gary Rufkin, who won the Albert Lasker Award for RNA interference. And so I had these individuals on my committee as I presented my work on, now this is kind of sounds really boring, is how the cell organizes itself, right? How does the cell know up from down? And I loved it. And it was funny because I was sitting here and I'm at my defense or my, delivering my thesis at the time. And it was Jack Szostak. He says, oh, you have a wife. Now I have 3 kids at this time. Again, slow learner, 3 kids. And he's like, you're graduating in 3.5 years. It's typically a 7-year program. And you have a wife and 3 children. How have you been able to do it? And I remember it was this moment where I puffed my chest and here I am. And I remember just kind of saying, it's not because of them. It's not I didn't do it because of them. It was because of them I was able to do it. And meaning like, in what many people looked at as like a speed bump, I looked at it as something as motivation. And it allowed me to do this. And so after that, I went on to did fellowships at different cancer institutes. I went and worked for kind of consulted for Fortune 50 companies of kind of helping them say, you have these very complex things. How do we take it to the masses? And so I worked with Fortune 50 companies. I went and worked at different cancer institutes. And then I really found, and what was very motivating to me is this industry, because in this industry, you can truly see how the greatest innovations in the world can make true paradigm shifts. And I speak to this, I'm already speaking long here. But when we think about this, the greatest thing that has changed the world isn't some drug. It's not. The greatest thing that has improved the health and wellness of the world is the simple act of washing hands. That saves way more lives than vaccines or anything else. And what is so beautiful about it is there's three things that have caused it to change so many people's lives. It's simple. It's a simple tool, meaning there's really very little directions on how to wash your hands. The simple tool is just soap. And the most important thing is it doesn't require a prescription or somebody in a lab coat. It's ultimately taught and enforced in social norms. It's a mom who teaches the child, right? It's when the child comes out of the bathroom and you hear the toilet flush and you don't hear the faucet run that says, get back in there and wash your hands. And what it does is it creates a social change, right? That paradigm shift. And when we look at this, we know, for example, bad nutrition, bad exercise, and toxins are taking about 8 to 12 years off of the human life. And these are things that we can easily address, but we aren't able to make that social paradigm shift. And that's what I find so beautiful about this industry, is that there is that incentive to actually create this to where it's not something in a prescription. And if you have a simple program, simple education, simple tools, and it is ultimately taught and enforced by those that love us, and we do it to those that we love, that's how we get people to eat better. How do we get them to exercise and remove toxins from their life? It's simple. And so I loved it. And so I kind of came into this industry. I've been in this industry now for 8 years working at this, and ultimately coming to Isagenix, realizing that the program is super simple. Program has been clinically validated. But the most important thing that really led me to Isagenix is the individuals that are listening to this. When we talk about the individuals that have the influence to create that paradigm shift of how we look at health and wellness, we have 500,000 people with just a tremendous amount of influence. We truly are pioneers of creating what I believe to be this kind of health revolution that is needed, a grassroots health revolution that is going to do it. Because if we're looking for change, it's not going to come from the golden arches. McDonald's isn't going to say, you know what, you should only have one hamburger, right? That's not going to happen. It's not going to come from a hospital that says, hey, to prevent you from coming in here again and paying me $40,000, let's make sure you do this. That's not going to happen. A true paradigm shift on how we look at health and wellness has to be a grassroots effort, similar to what will happen with washing the hands, and it will create a true shift and stuff. So that's a little bit of me and my story, my motivation to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Plant. And now I know everybody is so excited. We have hundreds of people in this group, so excited for Collagen University. And who is ready to get their glow on? I know people have been waiting for this. They're so excited. And I know, Dr. Plant, for me being in Isagenix for 9 years, we see people coming from all directions. People who've maybe never been interested before, people who had joined us years ago that are poking their head up saying, whoa, what, collagen? And we're just excited as a group of people really wanting to make this the biggest launch we've ever had to really educate ourselves. So, like Michael said, we're going to really address those 4 things. And I know you had given me 4 points as far as what really differentiates us, out there in the marketplace. So maybe start off first with, the type of collagen, the dosage, and why that sets us apart in the marketplace. Yeah.
So here's the thing. Collagen's a buzzword. And the masses of us, we click and we buy largely, unfortunately, on buzzwords. Collagen, it's great. Collagen, it's important. And then all of a sudden, all we do is we sit and we'll look at collagen and we'll say, oh, it's got collagen. Let's find the one that's the cheapest or whatever it is. But that's not necessarily how nature works, or in essence, nutrition. So there's a couple of things, and I'm going to kind of go on this. Let's talk a little bit about what collagen is. Collagen is a protein. It's actually the most abundant protein in our body. And if we look, our body is 40 trillion cells. That's crazy to think that really we're just 40 trillion cells. It's a beautifully mastered orchestra where they all work in harmony with each other to make us us. And each of these cells is like a brick. But that brick is held together by a mortar, just like a brick building. But instead of the mortar in our body, it's collagen. Collagen is that mortar that holds all these 40 trillion cells, largely these 40 trillion cells together. Now, there's different types of collagens. There's largely 4 different types, types 1, 2, 3, and 4. Type 1 is the most abundant of the types of collagen, is one that is predominantly in the skin and in the joints and so forth. And when we look at this, what we are looking at, and this is where I really want to understand, we make our own collagen. Like when I take collagen, it's not like I take this collagen that I consume and my body just kind of then puts it as mortar. No, no, no. Our body, if that was the case, we'd all be looking like, the food that we eat. Our body is a little bit more complicated than that. What it does is it's going to take that collagen and then it disassembles it down into the basic building blocks of that collagen known as amino acids. And then it takes those amino acids and then reassembles it into the collagen that we are, right? So the key is you're wanting to supplement with a collagen that is similar to the human collagen. Because as we disassemble that collagen and reassemble it, you're wanting it to have this very similar amino acid profile of what the human collagen is. If we put it in a collagen that is a completely different amino acid profile, our body will disassemble it, but then it's left with building blocks. It really can't incorporate that well. And so you're not getting the efficacy. So what it is they found that the marine collagen, the amino acid profile, it lines up beautifully to the human. Now, additionally with this, it's not just any typical marine collagen. It's actually sourced from the frigid Scandinavian waters of 2 particular fish, cod and pollock. And this provides you a very unique amino acid profile in this. And so we are able to get greater absorption, greater functionality, greater bioavailability, which really means, in essence, you're providing good building blocks for it to make the human collagen. And with this, right, when we look at the human collagen, there's been wonderful studies that say as you get older, your body just isn't as good as making that mortar anymore, right? And when it doesn't make that mortar, that's when you get, there we go. That's when you get the wrinkles, you get the crow's feet, you get the crepey skin. In essence, the brick walls start to sag a little bit, right? You don't lose the glow. Now, all of a sudden, you're looking more like a condemned building with graffiti on the sides rather than some stoic structure, right? And so we want to put that mortar in, and they show that when you properly supplement with collagen in the right dosage, your body makes that higher quality mortar, its own high quality collagen. And so looking at this, there's study after study of studies showing marine collagen does just that. And when you supplement with a marine collagen, you're improving the skin elasticity. You're improving, what's the word the proper word? I'm thinking of the scientific word, but the plumpness of the skin. That type of stuff. The glow, moisture, but also you'll make your own collagen when you properly supplement. You'll actually stimulate that own collagen. And so they do this, and scientists, you'll actually do what's a dose-respondent curve where you're putting, certain amounts. And then you'll notice, okay, at this amount, all of a sudden is when you start to see that physiological effect. That is what they call the clinical dose, right? Oh, here we go. Now we're starting to see an effect. Here's the clinical dose. And so they show that the clinical dose is around 4 grams. And we have put in 5 grams of marine collagen. Typically, you'll find individuals who are putting in, roughly 10% of that or putting in roughly 10% of that collagen in there, right? And so we're putting in that clinical dose to do this. And there's, I can think offhand of at least 4 or 7 different studies where they show that 4 to 5 grams is what you're needing for that clinical dose of marine collagen.
Okay, so the obvious question, and by the way, fascinating, is
bring on the mortar.
we know the American people, and their thought process is a lot like this. I once heard that less is more, which got me to thinking, if less is more, I wonder how much more would be. Let's just take 2 or 3 or 4. So is this a product whereby you can increase the dosage and see a greater return, either shortening the time or whatnot, or is this a product where you've gotten to the point where this is about like the protein? You can't just have 100 grams of protein in one sitting because the body just can't uptake it. So
Yeah.
talk about that, because I know what some people are going to be doing. 1 bottle a day. Hey, I'm going to be having 1 bottle. I'm going to have I'll just go through all of this stuff. I'm going to be looking like I'm 12. Is that
I'm
really
excited for the people that have the Collagen Elixir hats where they just got them and they're just like,
right.
no, yeah. So what it is, so for example, Kathy, right? I guess one of the perks of owning a company is you get to take the products well before the release. She's been on it for 60, 90 days. And so she takes 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening, which is good, right? Now, taking a whole bunch at one time, you're going to get difficulty in maximizing the absorption, right? You start to get a diminishing return. And it kind of comes down to typical, what's called your rate of metabolism of a certain product. And so we've made it 5 grams. And now over the course of a day, right, you take another one, you can be up again. We haven't done actual studies to say exactly what is that, but morning and evening, you could easily do it 2 a day at that point to get that.
And does it matter, food, not food, empty stomach, first thing? Does any of that matter with this?
Again, yes, but what we're doing is, I think what we run the risk of is if we kind of make it that way, we're talking about such minuscule differences. And it's also like we're oversimplifying, oh, what about this food, that food? When in actuality, the most important thing is getting it in the body, right? And so it's a lot of things where it's like, I always feel bad when somebody comes in there working out and they're like, oh, well, actually to get proper extension of those triceps, you're going to want to do this exercise. And I'm like, come on. Like at the end of the day, here's a person who's coming in the gym and doing it. They're getting 98% of the results, and you're worried about them getting that last 2% when they're at the gym. Like right now, to get that, it's a matter of just getting it in the body. The body does a great job of making and maximizing that bioavailability.
I would love to ask too. So we know that collagen makes up so much of our body, skin, hair, nails. We really want to make sure that we're taking some good before pictures. I know Kathy Coover talked about just the skin on her arms and how much more firm that was, and she was really noticeable. Yeah. So specifically, can you talk to just some of the areas of the body that people are noticing differences in type 1 marine type collagen?
Yeah. So what you see is typically like these things: crow's feet, the crepey skin. And so a good test, right? Here's a great test, right? And it's a measure of not only dehydration, but also of collagen. And you'll see this where you pick this up and then the rate at which it falls down, right? So as you get older, it stays, right? You pull this up, then you'll remove the hands, and it's like a magic trick where it just kind of stays. What that is your skin has lost its elasticity. That collagen, that mortar isn't there to kind of pull it back together. And so by doing that, and so one of the things that you'll see a lot of is areas that are very susceptible and needing a lot of that skin elasticity. That's why you'll typically see it here and the hands. And then as you get older, right, like that elasticity actually goes down even more, and you start to see the effects of that, like that crepey skin elsewhere.
Like the neck and the chest, I think we definitely shouldn't ignore that area as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of those things we do it. Now people see benefits of hair and joint health as well. And the amount that we are putting in does promote joint health. That you could even see the non-cosmetic benefits as well, right? Where it's like, hey, all of a sudden I don't feel as old, getting out of the bed. And there's also those types of benefits as well.
Perfect.
So the second area, of course, we want to talk about is who's this for? As far as, do we have age restrictions? Are there, like oftentimes we'll have a product that someone who's pregnant or nursing can't take, or, we've heard you don't want to be giving Ionic Supreme to a 14-year-old because that's not really a good thing to do. And, different things like that. So talk about who should be taking this.
Well, Lynn, you look beautiful already, so you're fine. Michael, you're absolutely a target. I'm just kidding. No. So it's targeted towards adults. Is the thing. And with respect to like nursing and breastfeeding, just contact your doctor. Now everything in there is common. We do put other botanicals in this as well. It's not just marine collagen, right? We have aloe, goji, chamomile, and so forth in there. And there's a few key nutrients such as vitamin C, which is the structural nutrient of collagen, meaning collagen kind of works around that vitamin C molecule. So you're supplementing with that, zinc, and so forth. So I would consult your physician on those, but largely targeted for adults is the main.
And when you say adults,
I think in the information in the FAQs I saw for Australia, it said 12 years old and up.
Yeah. So you're going to get it. I'm really what's driving the answer to this question is more legal, right? Based upon insurance of different things within the market. So I'll follow up on where it's actually being positioned in the US, because it's Now you're just getting into what it's scientifically versus what it's legally. And those, unfortunately, don't always line up, right? Legally, tomato's a vegetable. Scientifically, tomato's a fruit. So don't ask me to undo that, but that's the way it works.
Okay, well, and one more question along those lines about, taking the product. So women tend to have more of an interest perhaps in physical appearance. Mm-hmm. Men, someone decided, I guess, a long time ago that we can age and we can look like, Clint Eastwood moving forward. And that just makes us end up on the cover of, People magazine as the sexiest man alive when, a woman would just be like, oh my goodness, this is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, we really do have a dual standard in the world. So talk to the men for just a moment. Is this a product only for women?
No, it's not. And even if you kind of get to a position to where you're like, as a man, like, oh, I'm not taking any beauty product, there's also joint health with this. And I cannot find a man who's out there saying like, man, I really like the fact that my knees aren't moving as well as they used to, right? Nah, that doesn't happen. So, and let's be honest, right? We all talk, I'm gonna put you on the spot, Michael, right? Before we begin in here, straighten out the hair. Men, we like to pretend that we don't care about the way we look, but we all do, right? We all want to do it. And trust me, men, not only do we want to look better, but our wives want us to look better. We could do better. And so here's an opportunity for us to do that. And it's great, great product for men and women.
Men need to be guzzling that down too. For sure. Well, again, it's not just the marine collagen. You have put some other really great things in there. I know we're going to talk about nutrotechnology and the supporting botanicals that really set this apart in the marketplace too. Because I know that all of us in Isogenics want to know how to position this, and it really is what makes this product so special and so efficacious, and why people are seeing such great results so early. So maybe you could talk to that as well.
Yeah. So one of the things, let's talk a little bit about this, and I'll kind of group all those questions in one, right? There's other botanicals in here, aloe, chamomile, goji berry, and so forth. That have benefits with respect to skin as well as different vitamins and minerals in there. But what it is a lot of people have this idea of like, oh, here's this which is good for skin. Here's this which is good for skin. Here's this which is good for skin. And then let's just put it in and then we'll call it synergistic. No, like, believe it or not, science is a little bit more difficult than that. In fact, I want you to apply that same common sense to a meal, right? Nobody says, you know what tastes good is I really love salmon. I really love chocolate cake. I really love, frozen yogurt. Let's put it in a blender and mix it together. And it's going to be even a better meal. It's going to have a synergistic taste and it's going to be amazing. No, we would all gag at that. Well, the same holds true with respect to the way in which you do formulations. Now, we can put different things in there, but they can actually, just because they are together, doesn't provide a synergistic benefit. So what it is there's what's called double nutrotechnology, to where it's actually this emulsification process, to where it allows things that are inherently oil and water, literally, don't want to mix, allows these things to actually coincide to provide a truly synergistic benefit, right? And so what it is we've applied this double nutrotechnology in here to give you a true synergistic benefit as we combine it with these different botanicals and these different vitamins, to where it's not just us throwing stuff together and saying, here's a recipe of salmon and chocolate cake, indulge. No, like there is this component of where it's saying this double nutrotechnology allows it to be delivered to where you're having the salmon cake or the salmon and enjoying it. You're following it up with the chocolate cake for dessert to create a true meal experience. And so applying some scientific logic in the way that you can do that, you can get that synergistic benefit rather than just kind of creating a smorgasbord of things together.
So would it be fair to say, Dr. Plant, then that, again, there's other collagen products out there, that utilizing this nutrotechnology really allows our body to maybe uptake more of the collagen to be able to use it more effectively?
Yeah, I think what you could do from this is it's fair to say, based upon this technology, right, there's been numerous documentations that through the emulsification process, right, that you do get greater uptake of components. And so to help illustrate this, a cell, I want you guys to kind of go on this little magic school bus ride with me, right? Imagine yourself super small and you're driving around in the bloodstream and you see these cells. Now, a cell consists of what's called a phospholipid bilayer, which means it's fat. One part is oil, and then the other part is hydrophobic and hydrophilic. And so you'll have these hydrophobic ends of these molecules that get together, and then the hydrophilic, the part that love water, are on the outside. And so if you get that around the whole cell, you've just created what's called the cell membrane. That's the gate of that cell. And so to pass through a cell, you actually have to pass through a water layer and a fat layer. And that is very challenging. And that's how cells can be selective. And so when you do this, you're wanting to make sure that the emulsification process actually is encapsulated that same area. And so it kind of just goes and then emerges with that cell and becomes really almost kind of part of that cell membrane fence, opens it up and releases the components. And that's the idea behind this, is it's best way to kind of illustrate this. When you have two bubbles, right? Soap is hydrophobic, right? It creates it. That's why it can get oil off the hands. But you'll see those bubbles, and then they'll connect and form a bigger bubble. That's the same type of thing that's happening. And then you have your cell, and then you have the emulsified thing where they combine together, and then they come in, and then they release the components into it. And that's the power behind this kind of technology.
So fascinating. And again, me speaking to the rest of the field watching this, what I would really recommend, because this is going to stay on this page, is watching this over and over again, listening to what Dr. Plant said over and over again, to really, and then think about layman's terms and how you can describe that to the people you're talking with, because people do want to know why and why does it work, and really what sets us apart versus like, here's some collagen.
Yeah.
Right. And we talked, excuse me, you talked about why it works, kind of giving almost like the ingredients that the body's breaking down and then able to kind of reformulate those and produce what we need. But let's talk about just the practical moving forward for those of us that are part of Isagenix that want to not only take this as customers, but we want to be able to share with others, this is a product you should be taking too. We want to be able to market it to those individuals. So before and after pictures, we obviously know how to do that, but you did the little pinch thing on kind of the hand, little video of that, just any other, ideas that we might not think about to kind of document where we are today. And then what's the reasonable time frame? Do we take another picture tomorrow after the first bottle? Do we wait a week? Is it a month? When is somebody going to actually pinch their hand again and say, oh, wow, like this is a noticeable change in my structure. This is working.
Yeah. So, this is where I want to say this is the beautiful thing of the industry, what brought me to this industry, right? I talked about at the beginning, and part of the challenges in this industry is you'll have individuals who unfortunately will greatly exaggerate different things. And really that, to me, that's an unfortunate situation. And you have competitors and all this other stuff where it's like, I was bald, now look at what's happened. All right. So first of all, you're not all of a sudden, we're not going to make a Tyler Dickerhoof at Dr. Plant. Like, come on, it's impossible. And I hope he's watching this right now. But what it does is, right, when we look at this, our body, with collagen being the most abundant molecule, I want you to, most abundant protein in the body. You think about it, I don't know, average individual weighs, let's say 150 pounds. And if it being the most abundant, there is a lot of collagen in that body. And you're supplementing it at 5 grams a day. Now, for people saying, hey, I took this in a day and look what happened. Well, first of all, you're not fixing the problem, you're masking it. You're putting lipstick on a pig for people that are like, oh my goodness, like that's how makeup works. And topical applications is I got this crow feet, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna put Botox or whatever it might be. You're really just masking the problem. But to actually correct that, the clinical studies go usually about 30 days is when you'll begin to notice the difference. But you'll see in some of these clinical studies that have been done, 120 days is really when that peak performance happens. And then it becomes in a maintenance. You have to remember, you're doing 5 to 10 grams a day based on 1 or 2 of these a day. You've got a lot of collagen in your body that it's going to start to then replace that mortar. And you got 40 trillion cells, you got a lot of mortar that you're going to be replacing. And you're going to want to make sure that you kind of keep it going, keep it regular, so that mortar feels confident to start replacing itself at a higher quality level.
Okay, so one more question for those of us that are a little bit older, that may pinch and just look at a little peak for a while. It doesn't really go down. Is this something where doubling up, say 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening for 120 days, and then backing down to 1 when you've kind of gotten ahead of the curve would be advisable?
Yeah.
Or do we just have to acknowledge that we're older and our structure may need more maintenance, like for the rest of the time we're here?
And it may be, right? And it's hard to kind of make that because we haven't, we haven't done the studies with respect to the different demographics to kind of look at that, right? And so, but with that very much a logical approach, Michael, and I theoretically it would very much hold true, that you kind of double up that 1 or 2 a day, or double up for the first 120 days is a great way of kind of doing it to jumpstart that. And that's exactly what Kathy has done. And then she'll bring it down into kind of that maintenance level.
And I'm also just thinking again, the whole synergistic thing and, what we have in isogenics anyway, and the telomeres. And of course, when we know we have our weight in a better place, just overall what that does for our longevity, in life. Are there some products that we have within our isogenics catalog that you really feel work really synergistically very, very well together with the collagen?
Yeah. So the one thing that we want to look at is, again, when we look at protein, it really just matters. Protein, I'm going to give the analogy of the alphabet here, right? We have just 26 letters. Those 26 letters make up hundreds of thousands of words, right? And they can do that because those 26 letters can be put into different combinations and different lengths. So the same 26 letters spells cat, also spells supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. And different letters, different orientations, it creates this. So you have endless possibilities. Well, instead of 26 letters that build and construct the whole English language, our body does the same, but uses 20 amino acids. And those 20 amino acids make the hundreds of thousands of different types of proteins in our body. And so when we look at this, right, when we're supplementing with collagen, what we're doing is we're providing those amino acids that are largely unique to that which is collagen. And so we're kind of saying collagen may use a lot of X's and Q's. And so that's why we want to supplement with marine collagen, because it's enriched in those X's and Q's. And so we're giving it those letters that aren't too common in other types of things to make sure it has that. But additionally, due to the quality of the isogenics protein, by coupling this with the shakes is a great way of also supplementing those different letters that your body is needing. Because believe it or not, the most important thing for our body is not to look good. It's to ultimately have a smooth metabolism. And so even though we may be supplementing with X's and Q's to make sure we're getting those X's and Q's letters to the collagen, if our body is saying, well, I'm actually needing that X and Q to make sure that this guy is still alive, guess where it's going, right? And so by supplementing with that high protein diet with respect to the isogenic system is also a great way to accompany it, to make sure that you're getting that collagen to allocate towards your own collagen.
Oh, you guys, you got some good sound bites there. I'm already thinking about the different product packages we're going to put together because we want to make sure that we have all those letters and amino acids. I just learned so much in that period of time. So thank you. Because I know we were really trying to think about what product packages we could put together for some of our clients that come in with collagen and to make sure they have that at least a shake a day and that shot of collagen. I mean, what a great way for people to come in our door, right? Yeah. A great question was asked in the chat, and they said, are we going to be the only company with this type of collagen?
No, well, other people have different types of marine collagen, right? And so you want to get down like this type. Like we source this from a very unique area of the Scandinavian waters, right? Very, very delicate. And so now, do we have exclusivity on the cod and pollock of certain latitudes of Scandinavia? No, right? Like we don't have that. But it is these types of things that we do have coupling together, the collagen, and even down to the manufacturing, right? We've gone to a very, very unique manufacturer with this to where this bottle is processed in 0.15 seconds. That's crazy. And the reason that we want this is collagen, even though it's an exceptionally large, abundant molecule, it's absolutely fragile, readily available to oxidation. Now, oxidation, give an example of this. What oxidation does is it's literally oxygen will interact with that molecule. And when oxygen interacts with that molecule, it will break apart that collagen and it doesn't become as functional. So that's what oxidation is. When people say, oh, oxidation. And it's the same type of thing when you talk about oxidative stress, or another type of oxidative word for oxidative stress is free radicals. It's those types of things that we don't want to have happen to our cells in DNA. It also happens to collagen. And so what we've done is by utilizing this and quickly packaging this, you have very limited air exposure. Now, also to note, right, this is glass. Glass does not allow any air exchange. And despite what people think, plastic actually allows for significant air exchange. And so we specifically moved this into a glass bottle so that there was zero air exchange that was happening, so that there would be no oxidation of that collagen due to air exchange, versus other individuals that may have it in like a plastic container or whatever it is, readily available to be oxidized through the shelf life of that product.
Oh yeah, and you talk about air exchange. Anyone who's ever been to a large box store like Costco that walks down the aisle that has the laundry detergents that are all sealed, no one's opened them, and the aroma is almost overwhelming. Tell me that that's not somehow leaching out into the environment, because it's like, wow. You don't have that when you go down the pickle aisle. It doesn't smell like pickles because they're in glass.
Well said, Mike. Well said. Now, a lot of you right now probably watching this, and I want to make this little disclaimer because, Lynn, I don't think you've had a chance to change this or taste it, and so you're probably afraid to ask this. So like, I don't want to ask you live on how it tastes, Dr. Platt. You know, we're talking about marine collagen, and I'm not a. People are probably putting their nose up. We got Michael that's talking about pickles and detergent, making sure the smell doesn't leach. This tastes beautiful. It has no fish taste, nothing. It is by far one of the more refreshing products that we have. It's not a chug and move on, right? This is very much something to where you're going to find individuals that absolutely want it time and time again throughout the day as more of a good tasting treat, not to mention the benefits that it brings to them.
I've heard that too from some of the Australians I've talked to. They said they actually look forward to drinking it because it tastes so good. And, I know you touched on this again with we have sustainable packaging and it's in glass. And again, a lot of the competition is not in glass. So is it safe to say, and it's not good to speak negatively of another company, not that we would do that, but just how much longer ours would last, or the amount of collagen, because I'm guessing it's going to break down over time, right?
Yeah, and it's hard to say with respect to that. And I dare say, like, based upon it, you'll have what are called stability studies. And just so that people are aware, collagen is a protein. So a good way to determine of how much collagen is in a product, look on the fact label and see how much protein it says. There's a little life hack for you, right? And so unless they supplement it with other protein sources, right, you can kind of assume. So for example, if a fact panel says 0 grams of protein, you have less than a half a gram of collagen or less than a gram of collagen in there. And so that's a great way to kind of check. Now, as that is broken down with respect to oxidation, you don't measure for stability studies, they don't really measure the activity level of collagen. And so you can keep that kind of going out lasting longer. We didn't want to kind of have that like, well, it's only if its collagen is in there, right? We want to make sure it is as active as possible through the shelf life of that. That's why we use the glass. And so it's hard to say based upon collagen presence. It's more based upon the activity level of that collagen.
Okay. And I know we touched on this, but I want to just reiterate this again. Just, what sets Isagenix apart? I don't think we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. What have we always done and what have we done well? And, one of the things that we've trained on with isogenesis is it's not just about taking a pill and aging backwards. It's about the holistic approach, the art of wellness with Isagenix. Really what we are for a company that's promoting life and lifestyle and longevity. And what a great story, you guys, to have collagen with and, right, our systems that we already have. Because what ages us? Stress. What ages us? Not having adequate nutrition. What ages us? Being overweight. All these things age us. So what a great kind of adjunct to our story of what we have to add collagen into the story versus seeing it as separate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's wonderful. And that's the thing, right? Like, there's no magic pill out there. There is no one magic thing. And with respect to Isagenix, it's really coming down to a lifestyle. And coming back to these 3 things that I talked about that revolutionizes the way we look at health is it's got to be simple. It's got to have a simple education, simple tool, and ultimately taught by our peers and enforced by our peers. And when we look at this, that creates lifestyle behaviors, right? Hopefully now, most of the people that are watching this don't think twice about washing their hands. They just kind of do it after they go to the restroom or do it before dinner, right? Hopefully it's just ingrained in them. And the same holds true with respect to Isagenix, is when we look at this, it's to provide us products that provide us to be healthier easier. That's it. And so by surrounding yourself with all of these different products, it's easier to get good nutrition. It's easier to go out and be active. It's easier to limit yourself from toxins. And with that, you are now in a position to where you have that simple tool with you to create the changes you're looking for.
So one more question here, and then maybe Michael might have one before we finish up here with you. This has just been incredible. I've learned so much today. I'm so excited. I like have this countdown here on how many days we have to go before this product is launched. It's just phenomenal. But if you were sitting down with someone and they were at your home, and when we're able to meet with people in person, maybe you're on the phone, and you had to share in a few words why they should be taking our new collagen elixir, what would you say to someone who's a non-scientist? What would you say if you were selling or marketing to them?
Oh, this is where I almost want to default to you guys, right? I remember when I was getting married and my wife and I, we were going to one of these wedding tour things, right, where you have all these venues of people pitching different things. And a person came up to me and said, we offer teeth whitening. And I remember being like, why? Why are you asking that? Why do you ask that I need it? And she all of a sudden was kind of taken back, like, do I tell him that he has yellow teeth? So when I look at this, right, this is where the beauty of this and of where those personal relationships happen. This isn't something that I feel like you put on social media of like, are you tired of feeling ugly and sitting by yourself? Well, this is right? That's not the way that this goes about. But with this, I believe really this comes down to why this industry is so beautiful. And it comes to those like personal relationships. It's that third functionality that is so critical to create that. It's when you're sitting down with your sister and you're like, you know what? You have that relationship with them where you can be like, I had crepey skin, right? Like, and they'll look at it. And it creates that to where you have that type of relationship to where you can kind of do that. And I think that's the key, right? Because if I go on social media and I was like, for all you individuals out there that are ugly, I once could relate with you, but no longer, right? That doesn't work. And so that's the challenge. But I believe when you have those types of personal relationships to where they see you for who you are, and likewise, you know who they are, to where they really can connect with you. And so if somebody was sitting down, let's say it was somebody that I had a good relationship with, let's say my sister or my brother, and, and I'd be like, hey, with me, like my brother, hey, you're trying to get back into the gym, right? Your joints. This thing has been doing great for me, right? Or if it's my sister, have you been seeing as I'm getting older, I'm getting this type of stuff. You getting any of that, right? Like, here's this thing that has done this, right? We don't need to worry about all these different lotions that we have to apply day in and day out just to cover up the challenge what's happening. But let's begin to nourish the body from within by actually replacing that mortar that's holding this all together. Is a great way of kind of doing that. So yeah, this is the art of everyone that's listening to this. This is where you guys excel.
Yes, and we will definitely continue to be working on that here in this group.
Well, we're going to have so much fun with this. Dr. Plant, thank you so much. First and foremost, for just being here with us. And for those of you that are part of the whole Isogenics family, this is Dr. Plant Unplugged. We get to hang with this guy from time to time.
Without the bow tie, yeah.
But now we have some work to do. And our goal is not to run out of this, but to make sure that they're getting as much of it as they can, as fast as they can for us, because we are just beyond excited about what's coming January 8th.
Yeah.
So,
and like I said, Michael trains on this quite a bit. How do we learn the lyrics to any song? We don't print out the lyrics. It's because we listen over and over again, and then we can sing along to Adele, right? So that's how we do it. So we want to go back and we want to replay this so that it just becomes kind of second nature. And then we're able to then put it into those layman's terms to have those conversations to where people are like, oh my gosh, I need some of that.
And just remember one last thing.
As simple as possible, right? So hopefully we can make the lyrics simple to like the tequila song, where there's only one word you have to memorize. So we'll do our best to make it as simple as possible for those lyrics.
That's right. And for those of you, again, who are going to be going back through this over and over again, remember when you're visually here, you kind of have to be all here. But there wasn't anything that happened today that's visually important. So what's important is just to listen to the audio. That's it. So just, put in your earbuds when you're at the gym, when you're out there going for a walk, you're just doing things around the house. But literally just from an auditory standpoint, just put it in, and put it in again, because that's how you mastered the lyrics to all those songs on the radio. Not by studying the words, but just by hearing them repetitively. immediately. So Dr. Plant, thank you so very much. We are excited about this and excited for what is coming even after this at Celebration.
Yes, we're so excited for your expertise to create this amazing product for us that I know is just going to be a part of catapulting our company to the next level. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, guys. Absolute pleasure.